Let's try a Midnight Masanori and do a quick skill. And, oh, dude, look at that. He's getting absolutely shredded. That is insane. This dude is way tankier than the normal Masanori. Bro, that was wild. Hi Moglets. Today we're going to be raising Nahida. Most of the actual raising portion was done on stream, although as usual I do have timestamps for the various sections if you want to jump around. Up to you. Before I hand it off to StreamMoga though, just a quick reminder that subscribing to the channel is an option. Some odd percent of you are not subscribed and that makes me very sad. Almost as sad as my Nilu pulls. But alright, I'll be back in like 5 minutes. Alrighty. Here we go. As you can see, we have been busy with the ley lines. But anyway, there is the first star. Well, we'll also need to do some boss runs, but it's fine. There's the second star anyway. Level 50. Okay, we'll already need boss runs and Kalpatlata Lotus. Oh yeah, we can do an Archon team now. That's pretty cool. One more. Oh wait, what? There's another one? Okay, no, it's good. Damn, this boss causes me anxieties. Okay, so there's that. Pretty meh, I guess. But this is what we need, so might be good here. How am I gonna do the beeps when I'm collecting 5 at once? But yeah, I honestly do want to try that. All 5 at once? Dude, that's so cool! Oh, and it has a super short cooldown. Oh my god, that's so amazing. Dude, I love that. Oh my god. Okay. Dude, that skill is so awesome. I mean, we could just grab them, but why would we do that? Little characters climb kind of slow. She's chugging along. So let's first of all check if we can ascend her again. We need another boss run. All right, let's go do a boss real quick. Hydro damage bonus, pretty mediocre, but 2 of these, that's what we're going for. Nahida, Ascension, 3rd star, and we're going up to level 60. I don't know, should we go 70 or 80? I feel like probably 80 since God mode will be like C3. But yeah, we need a lot more boss runs. Let's get the Lotus first. Actually, I don't need Tignari when I have Nahida in my team. I just realized. So, boom, boom. By the time we can get over here and position ourselves decently well, the skill is already back off cooldown. The hopscotch thing is so adorable, geez. Oh god, boss is back. So, does her basic attack work at least? I think so. That's probably still faster than Tignari, since you don't have to aim. One is always dark though for some reason, but whatever. Bard's Arrow Feather, pretty garbo, but 3 more of those. Would be a nice way to test the range. Ooh. That is a long range. I think I got all of them. Ah, yes. Okay, well, we can see the range now. Can't hit those. Maybe if I just get a little closer in this way. Yes, cool. The range is really good, yeah. It's not like infinite range though. How about those 2 dudes? Oh, reading minds. Damn, they really had to add like a separate dialogue for every NPC just for this skill, I guess. That's pretty insane. We're actually good on flowers. We just need to kill the boss a couple more times. That's an interesting flower. 4 subs, double crit lines. Yeah, I guess you don't need Electro at all. It just makes it a little faster. 1 more boss run. It's pretty bad, but I think we have enough of those now, so that's cool. Nahida is already worth it just for this passive, where she can pick up stuff. That's a little bit biased since I do have so much farming. I have more farming than most other players because I raise every character. So something like this is a godsend just for that alone. 4th star, very cool. Not very painful to raise, I gotta say. They're 70. So yeah, I'm gonna try and get this last Lotus, and then I'll probably fight the rest of the bosses off stream. Hello, we are back. There's actually not too much left to do to finish raising her. We need 1 Lotus and like 4 to 5 boss runs. I'll try and keep it short. Beep. By the way, you can stop this ball dude if you attack him with fire. And you'll get him to stop bouncing early. A lot of people were trying to tell me that on stream and I didn't really notice. Also, you don't actually need Electro here. It just speeds up the process a little bit. Bad 2. Boom, boom, bad. 3. Guess while we're waiting for the boss to respawn, we can go ahead and raise her talents. Thankfully, I did pre-farm a lot of her books. We basically only need 9 of these total, so we can craft all and then go back 3. I'm not sure her basic will be super necessary for a lot of Nahida users. It only increases the damage it deals, but we'll probably explore, you know, a more DPS Nahida as well a little bit later. As far as her skill goes though, Nahida will want a good amount of Elemental Mastery, so I think her Tri-Karma Purification can do a lot of damage, even built more like as a support. Of course, I would say as a support Nahida, her burst is by far the most important to put priority into because it increases the bonus her burst provides and or the duration. Oh, we actually ran out of these. I think we can craft them though, so that shouldn't be an issue. Yes, indeed. And there we go, all talent 6. And now we go back to boom, boom, bad 3. Oh, that was actually it. Okay, cool. So there she is, the 5th star. That's all we're doing for today. And 80. Very cool, very cool. I'd say now is as good a time as any to do her talent and constellation overview. Her normal attack, even for a Catalyst user, is pretty unique. She does some kind of hopscotch attack, damaging enemies along the way, so can potentially have a lot more AoE than other Catalyst users. Her charge attack is really interesting as well. She like draws a cube in the air and then it kind of implodes on enemies. Her plunge attack is pretty typical of a Catalyst user, but it of course will deal Dendro damage. Her elemental skill is pretty packed. It does have a press and a hold. Pressing it will be a lot quicker and even better if you're already surrounded by enemies. It will also have 1 second less on its cooldown. Holding does do a little extra damage, but I'd say the main point of this skill is to mark the seed of Skanda on the enemies, which you can do with hold or press. If the enemies are more scattered or far away from you, then obviously holding is the better choice here. And this mark lasts a long time, 25 seconds. And all opponents that have this mark that are also close enough together will be linked. If you do Dendro reactions or have blooms, hyper blooms, whatever, explode on them, then regardless of which enemy in this chain is hit, they will all take this Tri-Karma Purification damage, which can happen every 2.5 seconds. At baseline anyway, we'll talk more about that later. And interestingly, this damage is based not only on her attack, but also her elemental mastery. And as a Catalyst user, she's already going to be good to proc the blooms, and Elemental Mastery is good for a bloom triggerer. So it kinda all works out. One thing I noticed with Nahida's skill is that you do not get orbs by actually using it. No elemental particles. What does seem to give you orbs though is when you're doing Tri-Karma Purification. So marking them and then doing some reaction. And as you can see, we have some Dendro orbs coming to us. Same thing happens as you could see there. So I guess that's good to know. Her main orb generation is going to come from what you should mainly be doing with her anyway. And then her burst is purely a self buff, I would say, to her own Tri-Karma Purification damage and or duration. Depending on the different elements you have in your team, you'll get bonuses. Having the second type, like 2 Pyros, does do less than the first one. We go from 20% damage increase to her Tri-Karma to 31%. Having Pyros or Electros does overall just increase the damage that skill is doing, whether by just straight up increasing the damage or by reducing the internal cooldown on her Tri-Karma Purification procs. The Hydros just extend the duration of her burst, and at base, the duration is already longer than the cooldown anyway. It is pretty cheap to cast at 50 energy as well, so you might just be able to keep it running anyway. Though I'd assume, you know, going for a Bloom Nahida, you'd kind of need a Hydro in your team regardless. And having just 1 Hydro already increases it by nearly 5 seconds, which is massive for some reason. So that should make for an easy 100% uptime. Her first passive here is pretty powerful. It is a straight up buff while you're inside her burst range. It gives you 25% of the elemental mastery of the unit in your team with the highest elemental mastery. So if you happen to have someone with 1,000, the active character will get 250. It does only say active character. So if you have off-field damage going like Raiden or Yelan or a lot of other units, it doesn't sound like they're going to take advantage of this. But overall, very nice passive. And her second passive once again buffs Tri-Karma Purification. This is definitely the focal point of her whole kit. It's bonus damage and crit rate to Tri-Karma Purification, again based on her elemental mastery, but it only starts counting after 200. So for the maximum 80% damage bonus, she indeed would need 1,000, just like for her first passive where you would need 1,000 elemental mastery to get the full 250 bonus. And I usually don't talk about third passive, but man is it cool. I harped on this quite a bit during raising, so I'm not going to go into it more, but yeah, not everything is pick-upable. I've heard scarabs are not which is sort of unfortunate, but as long as most things are, it's still awesome. Talking about our constellations here, C1 already seems very powerful. It'll essentially give you those first buffs for having a Pyro, Electro, and Hydro in your team without having them in your team. So having one of each then will give you the full bonus everywhere. C2 though is arguably her best constellation outside of C6. After marking an enemy with her elemental skill, Burning Bloom, Hyper Bloom, and Burgeon can crit. They will have a fixed crit rate of 20%, which was a little bit disappointing. Crit damage will be at 100. Averaging it out, it'll basically have a 20% damage increase on those reactions, which is not nothing. I'm not a math wizard though, so feel free to correct me. What I think is more interesting though is when you're going for a Quicken team, where you're trying to boost either Dendro damage or Electro damage, because doing Quicken, Aggravate, or Spread will decrease the opponent's defense by 30%. So all around, very, very nice C2. C4 was surprisingly underwhelming. It's a maximum of 160 elemental mastery that only ever goes to Nahida. So in a lot of the hardest cases, it's just 100 elemental mastery for Nahida. For a C4, very weak. C6 essentially turns her into a main DPS, or at least gives her that potential. Basically, hitting a marked target inside of her burst will use an upgraded Trikarma Purification called Karmic Oblivion. It's basically the same thing as Trikarma Purification, but the multipliers are fixed at 200% of her attack and 400% of her elemental mastery. That's somewhere in the middle of a level 11 to level 12 skill. The main difference is this can happen every 0.2 seconds rather than every 2.5 seconds. Or I guess every 2 seconds once you get her to C1. She can only trigger this 6 times, however, but that should in theory be a massive amount of damage like really quick. And that's pretty much it for the talent and constellation overview. Of course we have to build her properly. I just built her with a bunch of HP for the showcase. A part of me does kind of want to go with a normal DPS build with like Element Mastery, Dendro, and Crit, but that's probably reserved more for C6, especially once you get her C2 and those blooms will have 20% regardless. First impressions wise, her main utility is going to be Trikarma Purification, as well as being able to produce blooms. Both of those things scale more off of Elemental Mastery than attack, so we're going to be building her with as much Elemental Mastery as possible, really. Also, I think the 4-piece Deepwood Memories set would be good for her. So yeah, we are at least for now focusing mainly on Nahida as off-field sort of sub-DPS / support. For God Mode, we could potentially try and DPS with her, but again, that might be something more reserved for C6. Sadly, we don't have an Element Mastery Circlet or Goblet, so what we'll probably do for now is give her a Dendro Damage Goblet and an off-piece Elemental Mastery Circlet. I would like to get as close to 1,000 as possible. With the pieces I'm rolling, that doesn't seem very likely at all. Yeah, that's pretty garbage. Maybe we have 500? 637. As for her weapon, obviously the signature would be the best, but I refrain from using that for the raising mode. We do have Wandering Even Star here, which is a newer weapon, but definitely sounds really good for her. Element's Mastery main stat. We can only get it to R3 because again, it's a pretty new weapon and we haven't gotten duplicates. For me, since I do have her signature weapon, it would be a bit of a waste to raise it very far. In fact, I probably should have thought about that because we literally can't raise it anymore. The domain isn't open today. Same for her signature weapon, unfortunately. So, yeah. Sacrificial does have Elemental Mastery, but it's pretty useless for Nahida. Map and Mare would be alright, but that domain is even less available. Well then, we actually have no choice but to go Sacrificial, unfortunately. At least it'll give us 200 Elemental Mastery, bringing our total up to nearly 800. Getting 1,000 wouldn't be a problem, but then we wouldn't have the 4-piece set. I'll definitely have to run this more to get a proper set for her. It's kind of weird though, because when she casts her burst, she'll give herself 25%, boosting her to nearly 1,000. So then at least while she's on the field, she'll have nearly the full bonus here. Kind of want to try that real quick. So let's go ahead and do her burst here. Take a look at her Elemental Mastery. And yeah, we're at 986. So we can't really trigger Trikarma Purification with her alone though. So we'd have to have some off-field application. Neelu would probably work fine for that actually. I do also want to try the full Archon team. Unfortunately, only Shogun is going to give that boost to her burst. Let's see how much those blooms do. What the those are just regular ass blooms doing like 13k each, I think. I didn't even do anything in particular. It's raining, so I just tapped them with the skill. But no, I think we'll try Archon team probably in a separate video. For now, I kind of want to see how she works in a more general bloom team. And like I said in my Neelu video, blooms are better in an AoE situation, of course. I mean, Nahida especially is better in AoE for that linking stuff. But I do just want to practice the rotation a little bit on Masanori here. So we're just going to start with the Yelan burst, do a couple E's. Go ahead and do a triple E. Nilou, get that going. Get a shield from Zhongli. And then just go ahead and do that and just start continuing to hit him with blooms. I can see the blooms there. They are normal blooms for some reason. I just remembered we're not allowed to have Zhongli or any other non-Hydro Dendro unit. Oh boy. Kokomi was the old trigger for Nilou teams, but with Nahida, I don't think that's going to be necessary. Okay, there we go. 21k blooms there, 22k. Let's go ahead and do her burst now. It should last quite a bit longer now. Okay, 25k blooms, 24k, 25k, and they're happening pretty quick as well. I'm gonna apply it and I guess just start doing some hydro attacks to sort of see or get that out. It's kind of hard to see what the actual trifecta, whatever it's called, is doing. So let's just keep attacking. Could it possibly be that 10,000? Or the 5,000 when it doesn't crit? So yeah, at least outside of burst, like 5,000 non-crit, which will be happening most of the time since she has very low crit rate. That is outside of burst though, so let's try it inside of burst. We do get extra crit rate and nearly 80% damage inside, so let's try that. So we're just gonna get some off-field hydro here, mark him, and then just start. Yeah, I think it's 11,000 now? 14, maybe that was a bloom. I just saw a 30,000 bloom, I think that was. I mean, Nilou has a massive amount of elemental mastery as well, mainly from her passives. Oh wait, what the heck? Nahida has over 1,000? We're not even still in her burst. Oh, dude, that's right. There are so many things to remember, and all the weapons and characters keep getting more complicated, so I apologize, but yes, I remember now. Your party members get a percentage of the elemental mastery Nilou gets from her weapon, which is enough to boost her over 1,000, thus maxing out both of her passives. So yeah, I'd say they are pretty good partners. The question is, do we go full bloom and keep it only Dendro and Hydro? Because if you're not fulfilling the requirements for this one is literally useless. And that's kind of a shame. Well, if you're going for a bloom team, you know, obviously stick with this. But I think Nilou could be in other teams without Nilou, though I do think they're obviously pretty good partners. Let's try a Midnight Masanori. He is much tankier than the normal Masanori, so it'd be interesting to see how fast we can get him down with blooms. Let's go ahead and do our burst first, and do a quick skill, and oh dude, look at that! He's getting absolutely shredded. That is insane. This dude is way tankier than the normal Masanori. Bro, that was wild how fast his HP went down. There are so many numbers going off. It's like deceptive that, because you're not seeing a bunch of 100Ks anywhere, but they add up, dude. And that was single target too, where Bloom doesn't even shine that bright. There's not really a lot of strong AoE places except like Abyss, but I usually save Abyss for God mode. Also, I gotta say this does feel a bit like a Nilou showcase. So while I do really love this team and I think it's nice, we're going to switch to something else. One thing I hadn't really thought of when it comes to teams and these raising videos is that I should maybe try and make the teams more accessible to F2P as well, like maybe trying to focus mostly on 4 stars. That said, I think Fischl would be pretty good, as off-field Electro will also decrease the time for her procs in burst. I would still want to bloom though, so maybe Xingqiu actually should be our off-field Hydro. I'm still gonna bring Zhongli because even free-to-play should have him. He's had a lot of reruns by now. Focusing heavy on Elemental Mastery, of course, will make her basic attacks pretty weak, but I was seeing some pretty decent trifecta hits, trikarma hits, whatever. It does look like she has a little bit of trouble hitting enemies in different, I mean, we can still do it, but at different altitudes, it is a little bit of a problem. All right, here's a bit more of an AoE situation, I guess, but I assume most of these dudes will die just from the setup, as it usually goes. Anyway, let's go ahead and mark some of these dudes. Okay, the linking actually has a pretty good range, I just saw, but yeah, couldn't really see much. This time with her burst. Let's, okay, yeah, dude, daily quests are such a waste of time. I mean, for showcase reasons at least. Let's try again anyway, just for fun. Okay, here I think we should use the camera. Can we at least see one decent hit? Yeah, I don't know. I think the, so many blooms though, so that's working well. I usually don't do Abyss for raising, but like there's no decent place that's AoE and also has some strong enemies outside of Abyss. Even here, unless we go all the way to 12, which I definitely want to save for God mode. And then Nahida Burst, followed by, I guess, marking the 2 enemies that are here. Okay, wait, we each got a 22k. Yeah, they definitely have to be linked though for it to work. I think the thing is going, I think her burst is going to run out here in a second, but let's start over. All right, here we go. Can link all those guys. Oh, 18,000 I saw. Yeah, I literally can't see anything. I can see her basic attacks going off, and I did see a 15k, but I think that was probably a bloom. She already has her burst back though, so that is definitely no problem. Let's see about, oh my god. I think I said this already, but there's not really a lot of good, strong AoE places. 9,700, I think, but that was probably a critical. I mean, yeah, it's pretty similar to what it was before. It might not seem like it, but we're already over 3 hours into this recording trying to find a good place to actually showcase AoE stuff. And while there is probably 1 or 2 good examples of hard AoE stuff, maybe even outside of Abyss, nothing I can think of, and it's obviously not even important for the real game. The hardest stuff most of the time is single target. I guess those Vishaps in one of the earlier Abysses is an exception. I mainly bring this up because I've been desperately trying to see her like try karma damage, and I have seen it a few times. If it crits, it's like 10k, and that's obviously a lot more impressive if you're hitting 8 enemies with that. That's 80k damage, and obviously she's built quite poorly right now. Sacrificial is kind of not good for her. I just got it for the Elements of Mastery. I think the artifact set's pretty good, but the stats on the artifacts are not, so that's something I would need to work on as well. She's still C0 when I could get her up to C3. I will be revisiting Trikarma for God mode because she'll be better built than. She is a godly Dendro applicator, so even if that was the only thing she had, it'd still be great. But yeah, I guess I'll leave it there. Main thing I got from this is that if you can't build her super well, use her as a bloom applicator and just give her as much Element of Mastery as possible. That Nilu team was absolutely insane. That Midnight Masanori got shredded in like 10 seconds. It was crazy. Really looking forward to the God mode. Monday next week, most likely. Until then, make sure to tell me what you think in the comments down below. Dropping a like or subscribing to the channel if you enjoyed is always greatly appreciated as well. Thanks, as always, for watching, and until next time.